Hello everyone, Parallel here. Welcome back to Star Trek Online. Season 14.5 was released today. So what I'd like to do in this video is give an overview and a little bit of discussion on the new content that is going to be available here. So this is a fairly minor update. It's just a half-season update, so there's not a whole lot of new content, but I still wanted to check it out and see what is on offer here. So let's go ahead and pull up the in-game guide here and just check out what Cryptic feels is worth highlighting. And there's actually one thing that is not mentioned here that is a pretty significant new feature that was added to the game, and that is the changes to the Infinity Lockbox. So I will discuss that as well after going through the few new items here. Towards the end of the video, I do also want to respond to a few comments I got in a previous video and some requests I've gotten in-game as well. So that will be towards the end of the video. But for now, let's go through the new content here. So Season 14.5. And yeah, you can see already there's only 2 bullet points here, so it's a pretty minor update. And I think that is, I mean, we can all kind of guess why this is the case. This is sort of a pre-expansion update here. The big expansion, the Victory is Life, is going to be coming in a few months here, and obviously all of Cryptic's effort and resources is going into that update. And yeah, so this is going to be just a fairly minor, minor amount of content here. But and I would just like to say, based on the video, the views on my video that I did for the, going through the details and the announcement for the Victory is Life expansion, there seems to be actually quite a bit of hype regarding the expansion. So that's always good to see. A lot of good comments and discussion going on there about what should be in the expansion and all that good stuff. So that is, yeah, that was really great to see the response to that video. But anyway, so just keeping that in the back of our mind that expansion is coming, then we should kind of view this update here through that lens. Now, let's see here. So the first thing in this season, we've got the new featured episode, the Renegades Regret. So travel to Deep Space Nine and interrogate the Renegade Zenkethi captain, Neth Par. Yeah, if you remember from previous episodes, Neth Par was that female Zenkethi that was basically a defector and gave us some, vital strategic information on the Zenkethi's intention, and helped to expose the the Herc threat and everything along those lines, which was a pretty cool episode, definitely. So yeah, that was the last episode, Skila and Charybdis. Now, yeah, going on here, obtaining the information needed to help prevent further assaults from the Zenkethi. For more details, visit the blog. So they did post a blog on this. I won't go into too much detail here because I do plan to do a separate video on this, this featured episode. I always do a Let's Play of each of the new featured episodes that comes out, and this one will be no exception. So that will be coming here in the next few days. I have heard some reports that it's a little bit buggy and glitchy, and I heard there is actually another patch coming out tomorrow. So I might hold off for a day or two before going through this episode. Just hopefully all the glitches will be worked out by then. I have heard that this episode does have the ship switching mechanic, which we actually haven't had in a long time. And based on previous episodes, where they've put you into various ships, like in the Solanae when you are on the Obelisk carrier and all of that good stuff, it tends to be very, very glitchy. It screws up all your hotbars. It screws up your ship traits and all of that stuff. It's fairly annoying. So, yeah, I'm hoping they work out all of the kinks here in the next couple days, and then I'll go ahead and do a playthrough of that featured episode. But definitely very much looking forward to it. Featured episodes are great. There will be a gear set associated with this that is part of the rewards. I'll cover all of that in that upcoming video. The other thing we got here, and I will take a look at this now and go through some of the details in this new specialization, but we got a new secondary specialization called the Constable. Now, in this case, it is, secondary only, but what seems to be unique about this is that it gives both space and ground benefits. So it says the specialization is unique in that it benefits the player whether on space or ground. And that's actually something new. And I'm not quite sure how I feel about that because it almost makes me think that honestly every specialization should be that way. It should be active, have benefits both on space and ground. Or, it might be nice if Cryptic would do like you could have a space spec and then your ground spec, similar to how you have space traits and the ground traits, something along those lines. It should be one or the other. It should be consistent. So while I do appreciate that this one particular specialization has, space or ground benefits, it would be nice to have some consistency there where either all the specializations should have that, or you should be able to just choose your space specialization and then your ground specialization. But in any case, that is a new feature on this particular one. So let's go ahead and check that out right now. And that is, let's go over here to skill, specialization. So here it is, Constable. And you can see it is only a secondary trait, because it only has 2 tiers, 2 tiers to this specialization. And over here you can kind of see the, kind of the focus or the, what the kind of sort of gameplay is going to be for this specialization. So while the Constable specialization is active, your main target will become your antagonist. You will gain a significant amount of armor penetration to shots fired against your antagonist. This bonus will increase by a small amount for each point spent in the spec. Okay, so yeah, that's nice. But here is the caveat, and here is the drawback of this specialization. And I think it is, I don't know, I'll have to play test it, but to me this is almost a killer to the spec. And that is this little blurb right here. Marks your target for antagonist after 4 seconds. And it must be less than 10 kilometers away in space. So this vastly limits the strategic value of this specification or specialization, because if you have to have something targeted for 4 seconds before you get any buff at all, that's a huge drawback. That is, I don't know. I mean, very few targets last longer than 4 seconds, especially in an AoE situation. And this is only sort of a single target focused specialization. So this is going to be a problem. This is really only going to be useful against those single big hardened targets, like maybe one ship or one, like the Borg Tech Cube at the end of ISA or something along those lines. Because most things are not going to live that long. Even if they do live longer than 4 seconds, let's say something lives for 8 seconds, you're only going to be getting, that's only 50% uptime on this antagonist ability. So that's still a huge drawback. So that is kind of a problem for me, but plus you can't like target them when they're out of range for 4 seconds and then come into range, because they have to be within, less than 10 kilometers. So there's all kinds of, downsides to the specialization. That said, when something is your antagonist, it does seem to provide a very, very significant buff, including this, by default it gives you the armor pen, and it has all of these other abilities that it has as well, or buffs and debuffs that it applies when you have an antagonist identified. So right here, some of these we can just go through these. When you have an antagonist, while facing them, you get increased flight speed or run speed, or even more flight speed or run speed. You get a chance to remove remove buffs from the target. That's kind of actually cool. That could be useful in PvP. You get things like stealth detection, singular focus. You get damage resistance to other targets. That's actually kind of cool. A little bit of extra tankiness against targets that are not your antagonist. That's kind of interesting. You've got controllability effectiveness against your antagonist. You've got increased resistance rating to control effects from your antagonist, so they can't control you. I wonder if that could resist placates, because I could see a placate also very much destroying this specialization, because if you have to have something targeted for 4 seconds, if they can placate you and it resets that, then again, it just really destroys the applicability of this, how often you can get this antagonist running. So that's interesting. And then finally, tear down, you get an all damage bonus versus your antagonist. Pretty cool. You get your weapons gain a 10% chance to debuff their turn rate and impulse speed, and even more. And to the antagonist, you get 25% of the hull healing to antagonist is applied to you. It's kind of interesting. And then wear down, minus the hull percentage to hull repair rate, and regeneration. So again, pretty effective at debuffing your antagonist. It's just you have to have them targeted for 4 seconds before you get any buff, and it only is a single target ability. So given the focus on AoE abilities in this game, overall, I mean, there are some single target builds that you can go with, but largely a lot of the content is AoE based, and the fact that there's that 4-second delay kind of limits this specialization. So we'll see how it turns out. I just can't see it replacing strategist, at least in space. It just strategist is just so good for a secondary. Yeah, plus you get diversionary tactics, which is a nice oh shit button. You get some nice crit buffs. You get some good stuff in strategist. So yeah, I can only see Constable being used in some very niche situations. But it is there, and does have some unique ideas. I think if they just took away the after 4 seconds from this, and it just immediately gave you a debuff on your single target, I think that would make this a lot more viable as a secondary spec. At least that would be my impression. All right, so that is the new Constable spec. Now, like I said, there's actually something else that was not mentioned in the little what's new in season 14.5 blurb here. There is actually a pretty significant change to the Infinity Lockbox, and for this I'm going to head over to the exchange. There was a change in how the reward structure works. So now, basically, I mean, just to make a long story short here, they combined all the tier 6 ships into a single box, and they combined all the tier 5 ships into a single box. And they also combined some of the faction ships into a box where you can, a tradable box, so you can actually trade the box and then when someone purchases that box, whatever faction they open it on, it will give them that ship. So for example, the Kelvin Timeline ships, I believe, were added to this secondary reward box, so now if you want to open it on your Romulan, you can get the Talaru. If you want to open it on your Federation, you can get the Vengeance, and so on. So that will help a little bit with stabilizing the prices across factions. So overall, I think it's a good change, at least in theory. There is a little bit of a problem though when they combine boxes like this. And I think I was checking out this earlier, see what the prices were, but when you combine boxes like this, and people on Reddit picked up on this, but this could actually slightly decrease your chance of getting a ship out of the Infinity Lockbox, because now, let me go ahead and pull one up here, because now it's kind of like you had a percentage chance of getting the tier 6 lockbox, and then you also had a percentage chance of getting the ultra rare lockbox, or maybe it was epic lockbox. So if they combine those two boxes into just the tier 6 box, are they actually removing that slightly small chance that you had of getting that ultra rare box? Is that now not being accounted for? I guess maybe another way to put this is, let's say, I think the pretty well accepted drop rate of a tier 6 ship from one of these lockboxes is about 1 in 200, or 0.5% chance of getting a ship. Let's say you had a 0.5% chance of getting a tier 6 ship, and then you had maybe a 0.1% chance of getting the epic tier 6 ship, which was the Vamp and the Nakul Artros. So let's say you had that was actually combined, you had a total chance of getting a ship of 0.6%. So now that they've combined those boxes, is the overall box now 0.6% total, or is it still just at the old 0.5%, 1 in 200 chance? And that's kind of the problem with lockbox systems like this. It's part of the reason I hate lockboxes, both in Star Trek Online and in other games, is they never tell you the odds. They never publish the odds. They could be doing little tricks behind the scene, and there's no regulation, there's no idea for me as a user or as a player to know what my chances are of getting these things. It's kind of crazy that even casinos have regulations. They have to post the odds for all of their games and their slot machines and everything else. and but there's no such regulation on lockboxes. Now, I remember hearing a while ago that China was exploring some regulations along these lines. I don't know if that actually went into effect, or what companies, what North American companies are impacted by that. But whatever the case may be, as it stands right now, we don't know the odds for sure. So I don't know that we'll ever really know if this change to the lockbox actually affected the odds of getting a Tier 6 ship. But enough on that rant. That's a little bit of a side note there. But as you can see, I pulled up with the Infinity Lockbox here. You can see that there is just this one Tier 6 Starship, and here they mentioned that secondary box, which is the Kelvin Timeline ship package. So now when you get this out of the Tier 6 lockbox, you get a box within a box. And this box is actually tradable, and then whatever faction you open on, that will give you that particular ship. So you'll either get the Vengeance, the D4X, or the Telaru based on where you open this secondary box. That's a cool change. I like that. But as you can see, the Tier 6 ultra rare ships, epic ships, whatever it was, the Herald Vomf and the Nakul Archeros are now part of this list here. And same thing with the Tier 5 ships. They added all of the Tier 5 ships, very, very long list here of all of them into this one box there. You got all the Mirror Universe ships are in there now and everything. So it's good and bad. It should stabilize the prices a bit. Prices will come down for some of them, like the Decor will probably come down a bit. Mirror Universe ships will probably go up a little bit. So I don't know. Things will adjust. We'll have to see how it works out. But for sure, the Vomf and the Archeros will probably go up in price because they were they were the only two ships you could get out of that other epic lockbox, and they were a lot more available because there was not much demand for these two ships, and they were the only two ships you could get out of that box. Now they're going to be mixed in with all these other Tier 6 ships, and there's a lot more demand for these other ships. So most people will be pulling these out of the lockbox and not those. Not the Vomf and the Archeros. So I am going to check out the prices here on the exchange in just a minute because I am very, very curious. But I think that covers most of the significant changes to the lockbox. One thing is that they added some new ships to the lockbox. And finally, they have added the long-awaited Tier 6 Wells class. So we finally got the Tier 6 Temporal Science Vessel. And they also added a Tier 6 Science Destroyer for each of the factions. So let's see, Temporal Science Vessel T6. So let's take a look here at what they're going for. 340 million, not too bad. This is only the first day that these are out. So I'd expect them to come down a little bit from there, but maybe not too much. As a side note here, this Infinity Lockbox is going to be running for a very long time. I'm going to pull up the blog post here just so I get the dates for you. Yeah, it's going to be running all the way until April. No. It goes from April 3rd through, I believe, through the expansion, maybe? So we may have a significantly longer time than usual for the Infinity Lockbox to be out, which means there should be a pretty significant supply of the contents from the Infinity Lockbox. So it'd probably be wait just a little bit while, and I would expect maybe just a week or two these prices will probably drop down a fair bit, and a lot of the other items that are available in the Infinity Lockbox should have pretty good prices from now until the expansion comes out. So it might be a good time to pick up some traits and some for some other weapons or something that you may want on your new Jem'Hadar character for the Jem'Hadar faction coming out with the expansion. So that's actually good. I like that. We'll have some good opportunities to prepare for our new characters in the expansion. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. So the new Temporal Science Vessel came out. This is the Tier 6 Wells. It looks fantastic. The visuals look great. There's also a similar vessel for Klingons and Romulans. And I'm very disappointed that the Romulans and Klingons do not have a cloaking device, which seems crazy. Cryptic basically just made all three of these just complete exact duplicates of each other. I believe the Romulan one doesn't even have a singularity core. It uses just a standard warp core, which is very, very odd. I don't know why they would do that. I mean, I understand it's less work to just copy and paste the ship to the other factions, but just not having a singularity core and not having a battle cloak on a Romulan is just crazy. I mean, that just doesn't happen. So I'm not liking that. But the visuals of the ships are very, very impressive. But I just did want to take a look at the stats here, because this is obviously a very anticipated ship for a long time. People have been looking forward to a Tier 6 Wells, for a long time. The Wells was one of the favorite ships back in the day. It was actually a little bit before my time in Star Trek Online. I did not play for very long under Tier 5. I started playing back a little bit before Delta Rising came out, and so I did not have a lot invested into Tier 5 ships like the Wells, but I know this was a very popular ship back in the day. So there is a lot of expectations for this ship coming out. Now, that said, going through the stats, I'm not afraid to say I'm a little bit disappointed. So let's go through them here. Hull strength is standard 1.0 multiplier, so 40,000 at level 60. I mean, it's a science ship. It's not a super tanky ship, so that's about expected. Shield modifier 1.45, very good. That's a very high modifier. Weapons 343 aft. It's your standard boring science layout. I was kind of hoping, based on some recent trends, like with the crossfield and the E-Dolg, I was really hoping, Cryptic was starting to be a little more innovative with their weapons layouts instead of just the boring 3-3. I was hoping for something maybe like a 4-2 would be awesome, like the E-Dolg, or like even just a 4-3 like the like the Crossfield, which is a fantastic science ship. So already just the 3-3 is kind of meh. And not only is it just 3-3, but it's 3-3 and no hangar bay. I mean, even some C-Store ships like the Eternal or the Vesta, the Tier 6 Vestas, those have at least a hangar bay in 3-3. So this thing is 3-3 and doesn't even have a hangar bay. So it's already kind of lackluster in that respect. Device slots 3, that's fine. Let's take a look at the bridge officer seating. We've got a Lieutenant Universal. We've got a Lieutenant Commander Universal. So good Universal seating. An Ensign Engineering, always annoying to have those one weird ensign sitting there that doesn't really do much. We've got a Lieutenant Commander Science Temporal and a Commander Science. So, a little bit, I mean, even disappointing here, because usually Lockbox ships have 2 specialization seats. This one only has 1. So, it's a little bit lackluster even there. And it's not even on the commander. I mean, the temporal is only on the lieutenant commander. So even from that respect, it's a little bit disappointed. Even if I'm remembering correctly, I haven't flown the Eternal in a while, but I believe that is the temporal is on the commander seat. In fact, I mean, just looking at this all across the board, the Eternal pretty much smokes this thing. And the Eternal is just a lockbox. Or sorry, the Eternal is a C-Store ship, and this is a lockbox ship. This should be pretty significantly better. So what else we got here? Yeah, but just the seating just looks... I mean, these are 2 universals. I mean, you're going to have to use one of these as a tactical no matter what, because there's any other tactical seating, and you're going to want at least your torp spread on there and some other tactical abilities. You fire at will, or you might want to even have to use both of those for tactical. You already got plenty of science with the commander and the lieutenant commander, so you could use both of those as although then you wouldn't have much on the engineering side. So I don't know, it's just not the best seating in the world, at least to my taste. I like the Vesta much better. The Eternal is also fairly better than this as far as the seating goes. Console wise, you've got 3 tactical, 3 engineering, 5 science. That's plenty fine for a science ship. Turn rate is 15 degrees per second, so it is very maneuverable. I think that's even more maneuverable than the Vesta, I think. Impulse modifier 0.2. It does get subsystem targeting, sensor analysis, good. Secondary deflector, yes, of course. Aux power, console. It does have the console. It has the Tipler cylinder console. And I think, honestly, that is the main reason people are going to want this ship, is because you're going to want, well, they're going to want this console and then the console that comes on the destroyer, which is the Mannheim device, I believe. And you put those together and you get that really amazing two-piece ability, which is the temporal backstep, which is an incredibly powerful ability. And maybe that's why Cryptic has, assigned pretty lackluster stats to this ship, just because that console set is so good. They figure people will buy the ship just for the console set. That's all I can think of. Otherwise, the stats do seem lackluster. I mean, it's even missing like temporal, or not, what is it called? The molecular deconstruction beam. The Eternal has that thing, and that thing is crazy good. That is one of the best ship abilities out there. And it seemed like all temporal vessels should have that molecular deconstruction beam, but this doesn't have that either. Doesn't have that. Doesn't have a hangar bay. This doesn't have 2 specialization seats. It just, I don't know, it seems a step below other Lockbox ships. So pretty disappointing as far as the stats go. But like I said, the looks are great. It's a great looking ship. And that console set is going to be amazing. So there is that. I mean, let's check out one more thing. I do believe there is a trait. Yeah, after reaching level 5 in your Temporal Science Vessel Tier 6, you unlock the Out-of-Time Starship trait. Once this trait is slotted, traveling above 88 impulse speed will cause your... Yes, the Back to the Future memes are real in this set. Impulse speed you will gain a stack of Out-of-Time while suffering cold damage? What? When you go to... So if you're at like full impulse, you're gonna be damaging yourself? Why? Why would you do that? Once you drop below 88 impulse speed, all the stacks of Out-of-Time are removed, and a scaling bonus to your bridge officer recharge times is applied. So I don't know. I mean, it's okay. No, it's not okay. It kind of sounds pretty bad. I can't sugarcoat it. It sounds pretty bad. I mean, it'll give you a little bit of recharge speed once you drop out of your impulse, but that doesn't happen that many times during a instance or during a queue. Plus you have to be going, plus you'll be damaging yourself. Why? I can only think if they're doing that because of the Back to the Future meme, like, how the DeLorean would like ice over when they travel through time. That's all I can think of the reason why they do that. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense in the game why you would want to damage yourself just for a little bit of bridge officer recharge time. But yeah, but there are other better traits for recharge time. If you're going to be running a science vessel, just run like one of the space traits, like all hands on deck or something. That's good for science officer, science bridge officer cooldowns, and probably a lot more consistent than this trait would be. So yeah, kind of meh on the traits and kind of meh on the stats. Not too great. The only reason really to buy this ship would really, if you want that console set, I think is the main reason. Or if you just want the looks, because the thing does look pretty freaking awesome. I mean, the Wells is an awesome ship. It was on Voyager, it's a canon ship. It's an amazing looking ship. It's so you can't really complain about that. But so that is the new Lockbox, and that pretty much covers everything new in this. Yeah, pretty much everything new in this update. Just those 3 things. So that's about all we're gonna get until the expansion comes out. But I am pretty hyped for the expansion, however. So this, I don't know. I guess I can't be too disappointed in sort of a lackluster half update here without a whole bunch of content. But the feature episode is there. That will be fun. Episodes have been great lately, so I'm very much looking forward to this one. And maybe with some minor adjustments, the Constable specialization will be good. So, I mean, the things that are there are okay. It's just, just not a whole lot for this little half-season update here. But, okay, so, I mean, yeah, that pretty much covers all the topics I wanted to discuss as far as the, Season 14.5. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I did want to talk about a couple comments and questions that I received in the couple recent videos. Now... my previous videos was regarding the duty officers duty officer missions, the support colonization efforts mission in the star clusters. And one thing I just wanted to show that I mentioned in that video, but I didn't really show, was that if you do have some of the duty officers, some of the purple doffs that you get from the mission, let's go ahead and just go to, let's just go to my very rares here. So here is the duty officer you get from the Betran cluster that I was showing in that mission. And I did have some questions about, how do you break this down into the, into a lower quality officer. The way you do that is right here just come to the Starfleet Academy and talk to the personnel officer here, and there is a mission called, I believe it is Exchange Officers. The reassign underperforming ones is if you want to upgrade lower quality officers into a higher quality officer, and the Exchange Officers, I believe, is if you want to do the reverse. Yeah, if you want to take a very rare duty officer and you could break it down into 3 rares, so 3 blues. And then these blues would then become tradable, and you can sell them on the exchange if you want. So this is a way you could actually make EC using this method. You can just select your 10 of 10, slot them in there, begin the assignment, and then there you go. You will have broken them down into 3 tradable rare officers, which usually do sell pretty decently. So you can make a couple 100,000 EC off of that without too much problem. So I did want to mention that. I also got some really good feedback from a couple of great commenters. And these were details that I was not able to find in my research on these duty officer missions anywhere, honestly. I looked on the wiki, Reddit, I did some searches. I was not able to find mention of this anywhere, but there was what the information was that they provided was, now when you want to refresh, so when I was showing the previous video, when you want to refresh your duty officer list when you enter one of these clusters and the duty officer available missions pop up, there is actually a slight difference how you enter the sector where the cluster is located. So if you could enter the sector from the north, south, east, or west, it can actually provide a slightly different available missions for that cluster. So that's another way you can try to get the particular mission you're looking for. If you want that support colonization efforts mission to show up, to get the purple DOF, then you can try entering the sector from different directions. And you can also enter the sector through like any other method, like for example logging in and back out. So that is something I did mention in the video, but that also does work. Or if you enter your bridge and leave, or if you enter a queue and leave, that will also potentially give you different available missions for that cluster. So something to keep in mind there. A little extra way, something you could try if the mission's not showing up for you. Otherwise, just wait for the 4 hours for the sector missions to refresh and come back, and then you can get your support colonization mission. So those are just a couple things I wanted to mention that were very helpful comments. So I do thank you very much to the commenters out there for providing all of that great information. I love the commenters on my videos. You guys are great. You always provide helpful information, and it's always great to see the discussion. So yeah. Kind of odd to say about YouTube videos, I know. It's very rare to have a useful comment section, but hey, there it is. So I did want to mention that. Now, finally, I did get some questions recently, and this was more about my character's appearance. So recently in game, I've had to request to share my character's customization. So basically my tailor customization, and I believe that is done through, there is actually a screenshot if you look into your installation directory for Star Trek Online and go into the screenshots folder, there's actually some images in there, and those images in the metadata actually stores your character options. So for that request, what I'm going to do is post my character files for a couple of my characters up on a public Dropbox, and I will put the link into the description of this video. And I've also gotten previous requests about this as well, so I thought it would be a good time to just go ahead and show my character's customization in and share that that file. So you should be able to download that file, put it into your into your Star Trek Online installation folder, into the screenshots folder, and then when you go to the tailor, it should show up there as one of the options. So hopefully that will work out. I'm not much of an expert on troubleshooting that, but hopefully the metadata in the JPEG will carry over when you goes through Dropbox. I don't know if that gets destroyed when it's downloaded or what, but hopefully it's not. Hopefully there'll be no issues there. So I will make that available. Check the description of the video for that link. It should be a public link, and you should be able to download it there. But I think that pretty much covers it. So yeah, I mean, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Looking forward to the expansion, and definitely very hyped about that. And then in the next few days here, I will, of course, be posting my Let's Play of the featured episode. So look forward to that. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye for now.